we'll discuss law of diminishing marginal utility. Then we'll discuss assumption of law of diminishing marginal utility. Then next we'll discuss total utility and marginal utility. Then we'll discuss law of equi marginal utility. Then assumption of law of equi marginal utility. These are the topic from today's session we'll discuss. So based on this topic, there are some questions. Questions like, what do you understand by law of diminishing marginal utility? Give example. Or what are the assumption of law of diminishing marginal utility? What is total utility and marginal utility? Then next, what do you understand by law of equi marginal utility? Then discuss the assumption of law of equi marginal utility. So these are the question answer we are going to address during our today's session. Now first we'll start with the law of diminishing marginal utility. Now if we see, one of the characteristics of human wants is its limited intensity. What I said, like human want, basic characteristics of human being is human wants and fulfilling it with limited intensity. As we have more of anything in succession, our intensity for its subsequent units diminishes. Diminishes means reduces. Okay, this generalization of setable wants is known as the law of diminishing marginal utility. Now I am going to explain it further. Like, law of diminishing marginal utility refers to the process of consumption of good in succession resulted intensity for its subsequent units diminishes. Now for instance, if we consider a thirsty person, a person feeling thirstiness, okay, so the person may take plain water to reduce his thirstiness. Now the person may take 1 glass of water. Now if thirstiness does not go away, the person may take 2nd glass of water, 3rd glass of water, but as the person will consume 2nd, 3rd, 4th glass of plain water, the intensity for its subsequent glass of water will reduces, and this law is known as diminishing marginal utility. Okay, again I am telling you, I am giving you another example. Like a person wants to eat sweets. So when the person will eat the first sweet, the person may think for having 4 or 5 more sweets. But as the person will go for the 2nd sweets, then 3rd sweet, the person intensity for its more unit of sweets will reduce. Okay, will reduce, and this tendency of reducing product consumption or good consumption is known as law of diminishing marginal utility. Now we'll go through the assumption of the law of diminishing marginal utility. Now in the assumption, first assumption is that the person should consume a single commodity or single good with homogeneous unit wanted by the same person. What I said, I am repeating. Like when a person is having a desire to consume something, that product or that good should be available in numbers. Same product should be available in many numbers so that one after another person may consume the same product. Then second assumption is there should be no change. There should be no change in the taste, habit, custom, fashion, and income of the consumer. Why? Because this is related to the, consumption of the product and subsequent units of the same product. So if taste of the good changes, or something like habit, custom, fashion, or income also changes, then the diminishing rate will also change. It may increase also. Like a change in any of them will increase rather than diminish utility. Okay, so for this, there should be no change. There should be no change in the taste of the good or habit, custom, fashion, and income of the consumer. This should be same. Then there should be continuity in the consumption of the commodity. Third assumption is there should be continuity in the consumption of the commodity. Then next assumption is units of commodity should be of a suitable size. Units of the commodity should be of a suitable size. Then price of the different units and the substitute of the commodity should remain the same. Then the commodity should not be indivisible. The commodity which consumer consume should be a rational being who acts rationally. Then finally, goods should be of ordinary type. Goods should be of ordinary type means common goods. Like, see, I have taken example of water. Okay, then consumption of sweet, then consumption of orange, consumption of apple, consumption of cold drinks. This can be related to any good. And when, like, if we talk about the like orange, like if a person eat one orange, then when the same person will consume second orange of same category, same type, third orange, then his satisfaction to have more unit of orange will reduce. And this is basically the law of diminishing marginal utility. And the law of diminishing marginal utility are based on some assumptions. And we have gone through those assumptions. Now, few assumption, one or two assumption, again I am repeating, like unit of the commodity should be of a suitable size. Suitable size means there, like plain glass of water. So there should be 4 or 5 glass of water. Then orange, there will be number of like 5 or 6 number units of orange should be available. Then if giving water to a thirsty person by spoon will increase the utility of subsequent quantity of water. But it should be in a glass of water. Now after this, we'll discuss total utility and marginal utility. Now total utility and marginal utility, why we are studying it here? Because total utility and marginal utility is related to the law of diminishing marginal utility. Because to understand the law of diminishing marginal utility, we need to understand the total utility and marginal utility. Now, first we'll discuss the total utility, then we'll go through the marginal utility. Now in the marginal, in the total utility means the amount of satisfaction obtained by consuming units of a good. What I said, the amount of satisfaction obtained by consuming units of a good. Now from this unit consumption, a person, whatever satisfaction gets or satisfaction realized or experienced by that person are known as total utility, because what utility cannot be mentioned in quantity. It is subjective and relative, that we have discussed in the first session. So now the total satisfaction or the amount of satisfaction obtained by consuming units of good is known as total utility. Now we are coming to the marginal utility. We'll go through one example also, then it will be more clear to you. In the marginal utility means the satisfaction gained from the consumption of one extra unit of a good. Okay, what I said, I am repeating again. Marginal utility refers to the satisfaction gained from the consumption of one extra unit of a good. Now we'll go through the example. Now see, like if a person consume orange. So first orange. Okay. Now this, what is the unit of total satisfaction the person is getting? That is total utility. Now if the person consume second orange, then it will be coming to the marginal utility, and that is due to the consumption of one extra unit of the same orange. That will go through a chart also. Now marginal utility refers to the satisfaction a person secure due to the consumption of one extra unit of a good. Okay, and that should be homogeneous, similar good. Like if a person is thirsty, okay, so the person may take one glass of water. So that is, coming under the total utility. But if the person consume another glass of water, then he's total of the consumption of orange. So consumption of orange, like if a person consume one orange, the person may get 20 utils of total utility. Okay, so as it is consumption of 1 unit of orange, marginal utility will also be 20 utils. Now coming to the consumption of second unit of orange, you can see see the cursor, consumption of second orange. Now when the person is consuming the second orange, what is happening? The person total utility will be 35 utils. How it is? Now due to the consumption of additional one extra unit of orange, the person marginal utility increased by 15 utils. 15 utils marginal utility are there. That's why the total utility will be 20 plus 15, 35. So total utility will be 35, because due to the consumption of one extra unit of the orange, that is second orange, marginal utility was 15 utils and total utility came to 35 utils. Okay, then if we take example of the consumption of third orange, third orange of the same kind, then the person marginal utility is 10 utils, because see, it's start continuous diminishing, reducing. Okay, utility diminishes. That is basically the basic law of the utility. Now, as it is 10 utils due to the consumption of the third orange, marginal utility is the 10 utils, then total utility will be 45 utils. Total utility will be 45 utils. Then if we take example of the consumption of the fourth orange, okay, then the marginal utility will be 5 utils and total utility will be 50. Then if we take example of the consumption of 5 orange, then marginal utility will be 0 utils and total utility will be 50. Now why it is happening, I will explain you. First you listen it carefully, then I will explain you more. Then 6 unit consumption of orange, in that case the marginal utility will be negative, minus 5 utils, and total utility will be reducing by 5, and it will be 45. Same way, if the person consume or take 7 unit of orange, then his or her marginal utility will be minus 10 utils, and the total utility will be reduced by 10 utils, and that will be 35. Okay, now I will explain it, that why it is going to be negative and why it is 0 then negative. Now considering the first example I have given of a thirsty man. Thirsty man was feeling thirsty and taking water. Okay, now when a person is thirsty, the person may take 1 glass of water, 2 glass of water, 3 glass of water, but after some times the person desire to have more and more water will reduce, then it will be negative, 0. Like if a person take 5 glass of water, 5 glass of plain water, or we can say that 500 1 liter water may also be taken, but after that the person will not be able to consume more water. Okay, then the person will not drink water. So that is basically 0 and negative. Like orange, like 1 orange, high satisfaction, then 2 satisfaction will reduce, 3 more reduce, then 4 more it will reduce, then it will be 0. After sometimes the person will not want to take more unit of orange, and it will become negative. So this is basically the difference between the total utility and marginal utility. And to make you understand the law of diminishing marginal utility, the discussion of the total utility and marginal utility is very, very important. Now after this, like this was basically the discussion on the total utility and marginal utility. Now again, we'll go through the law of Equi Marginal utility. In the law of Equi Marginal utility, this is also related to the law of diminishing marginal utility, but it is quite different. Law of Equi Marginal utility explain the behavior of consumer in distributing his or her limited income among various goods and services. What I said, that the law of Equi Marginal Utility explain the behavior of a consumer in distributing his or her limited income among various goods and services. This law states how a consumer allocates his income between various goods so as to obtain maximum satisfaction. The law of Equi Marginal Utility is called by various names such as the law of maximum satisfaction, the law of substitution, the law of economy of expenditure, the law of indifference. Okay, these are the different names by which law of Equi Marginal Utility are known. Now, we'll go through one example. Example like if we consider orange, like one category of orange, for example, per kilo ₹5. Another quality of orange or variety of orange, like per kilo 10 rupees. Okay, in place of orange, you can take apple also. If we think there are two variety of apple, so among these two variety of apple, there is one consumer. So one variety of apple per kilo price is ₹5. Another variety of apple per kilo price is ₹10. So the person may think that by giving ₹10, I will get the 2 kilo of first variety of apple. And if I purchase second variety for 1 kilo, I need to pay ₹5. So if the person is having more family member, the person may prefer the apple which price is ₹5 per kilo. And from the consumption of this apple, the person may get the maximum satisfaction because he is distributing his limited income among the two variety of the apple. Okay, so this is basically the law of Equi Marginal Utility, and law of Equi Marginal Utility is also known as law of maximum satisfaction, law of substitution. Substitution means alternative products or substitute products. Then the law of economy of expenditure. Law of economy of expenditure means when purchasing, the person is thinking about the economy aspect of the purchase. Then it can be known as law of indifference also. Now we'll go through the assumption of the law of Equi Marginal Utility. Now in the assumption, like first we can say the principle of Equi Marginal Utility is based on the following assumption. First assumption is the wants of a consumer remain unchanged. What I said, the wants of a consumer remain unchanged. Now wants, what is wants? Wants is basically specific satisfier of the need. What I said, what wants is, wants refers to the specific satisfier of the need. Say for example, there are two persons, one is Punjabi person, another is Bengali person. Now both the person is hungry. When both the person is hungry, the Bengali person may look for the rice, but the Punjabi person may look for roti and sabji. Both the person is hungry. Hungry is the basic need, but their wants are different. Punjabi person is looking for the roti sabji and Bengali person is looking for rice. So this is how we can define the wants. So the wants of the consumer remain unchanged. There will be no change in the wants of the consumer. Then the consumer have fixed income. Consumer will have the fixed income. we need to assume that the consumer having fixed income. Then the price of all goods are given and known to the consumer. The price of all goods are given or mentioned and known to the consumer. Prices will be known to the consumer. Then consumer is one of the many buyers in the sense that he is powerless to alter the market price. We need to assume that consumer are powerless to change the market price. It is not possible. Any consumer cannot change the market price. Then consumer can spend his income in small amount. Consumer can spend his income in small amount. Then consumer act rationally in the sense that he wants maximum satisfaction. Consumer tendency is that consumer looks for the maximum level of satisfaction. Okay, so these are the some important assumption of the law of Equi Marginal utility. So this was basically the today's session. Now again we will go through the summary of this session. From the today's session, what we have gone through, we have discussed first we have discussed law of diminishing marginal utility. Law of diminishing marginal utility. Then we have discussed assumption of law of diminishing marginal utility. Then we have discussed total utility and marginal utility. Then we have discussed law of Equi Marginal utility. Then we have discussed assumption of law of Equi Marginal utility. Now again I will give you the summary that what is law of diminishing marginal utility and what is law of Equi Marginal utility. Law of diminishing marginal utility refers to the process of consumer consumption of goods in succession. In succession means one after another, and resulted intensity for the subsequent unit of having for the same product reduces or diminishes, and this generalization tendency of having goods is known as law of diminishing marginal utility. Then law of Equi Marginal utility refers to the consumer behavior where consumer looks for the maximum satisfaction out of his limited income through the purchase or consumption of the goods and services. Person have limited income. Out of this limited income, person may look for maximum satisfaction. Okay, so to get the maximum satisfaction, person distributes his or her income among the goods and services, and this is known as the law of Equi Marginal utility. Equal distribution of the purchasing, purchasing amount. Then we have also discussed total utility, marginal utility. Total utility is the amount of satisfaction a person get or secure from consumption of unit of a good. Then marginal utility is basically refers to the process like due to the consumption of one extra unit of the same product, what utility or utils a person get, that is known as the marginal utility. Okay, so today from today's session we have discussed some question answer. So hopefully all of you have understand, and then in the next session we'll discuss demand analysis, because in this chapter there are three parts: utility analysis, demand analysis, and supply analysis. So already we have completed the utility analysis. Next class we will start the demand analysis. What I said, we'll start demand analysis. And thank you everybody for participating in the class. Next class we'll meet again with the demand analysis.